Welcome to the Rise to the Challenge podcast. Join me today. He's a professional rugby player and a global team lead at Uniqorn Incubator. It's Lucas Caneda. How are you doing today, Lucas?
Hey Alex, good and fine, thank you, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to learn all about your rise to the challenge. What we like to do first with all of our guests is go right to the beginning. Talk about where you're from and what were you involved in growing up?
Well, I'm from Argentina, so currently living in France for the last 5 years, but I'm from the other part of the world. I grew up in a family of my mom and dad always being sports people. So I've always been playing rugby, football, doing martial arts. I've always been very into sports. And since the age of 6, been playing rugby, almost non-stop, I would say. I had a break for 1 year because I was trying to play football too, but at the end of the day, rugby is what kept me going and my real passion, and that's why I came back and never stopped since then.
Growing up in Argentina, what was the culture like and what did you learn about living there?
Oh, so many things, but Argentina is a very changing country. There's always ups and downs. So it's a very good lesson in terms of being able to fall and stand back up, never stop fighting. And I think that's the spirit you also need to become a rugby player. And also in any startup, in every business, that's the way you need to do it to be able to succeed. So it goes hand in hand.
When you first found out about rugby, what brought you to want to play that sport?
Well, to be honest, when I was a kid, my mom just took me there. I mean, uh, back in Argentina, I would say it's the second most popular sport, probably, being football the first. And I always liked football very much when I was young, and I've even tried to play. I even played for 1 year. But what kept me going basically is the atmosphere that you find in rugby. You don't find it elsewhere. I remember a very good story when I was a kid, and I went to try myself in the biggest football club in Argentina. I was about between 10 and 12 years old, so as a young kid, it's just there for fun. And as soon as I went to the changing room, everyone, there was like 60 people in there. Everyone looked at me like, who the hell is this, right? I came in and say, hi, hey, how are you guys? First question I got was, what position do you play? Oh, I don't know. I like to play number 9. A guy came up and said, our number 9 is him. Don't you dare steal his post. I was like, wow, dude, these guys are 10, 12 years old and they're already thinking like that. That's not the place I really want to be. And in rugby, it's all the opposite. It's all about being a family. Uh, your club becomes your home. Um, and the friends that you get there, you keep them for a lifetime.
When you were playing rugby, what's the biggest thing it learned about yourself?
That there's That's a lovely question, but what I would say is that there's no limit. You can achieve almost anything that you want. One of the beauties about rugby is that no matter if you're fat, you're thin, you're big, you're small, you can always succeed. There's 15 players on the field, and everyone has a different role, a different position. It's kind of like a business. And if you do your job very well and you help others succeed in their tasks, that makes you a great player. That makes you a great businessman, and that's what it is.
Do you feel when you were growing up playing rugby that you were able to shine in the position that you were at, or was there always another position that you wanted to try?
Well, I need to be honest there, but I was probably one of the best of the team when I was young. So but I kept changing positions because some coaches thought that I would have more future in a different position or another. I honestly enjoyed playing rugby. I don't really care that much about what position did I play. I just wanted to play, be on the field, lead my team, and that was it. I didn't really care about where I was playing as long as I was playing.
I think that's always the great mindset to have, is just to be out on the field. I think a lot of people sometimes worry about who's watching me, who's going to judge me, but it sounds like you were focused on just enjoying the experience that you're having and having fun at all costs.
Yeah, and also being as competitive as I could, because that's always been my DNA. Um, and in order to do that, I mean, if you stay on the bench, if you stay outside of field, you don't get anything. You don't improve. You will never be able to lead your team if you're not showing through the example what needs to be done. Uh, that's kind of the spirit we've got in here in Uniqorn Incubator too. We always try to test things first, show other people that it works, and then put it into motion.
Growing up, did you have any inspirations or someone that motivated you?
Uh, I mean, I've always looked up at the senior players in the team because that's kind of the spirit back home. To explain that a bit better, I mean, in Argentina, when you play for a club, 99% of the time you never change. So you always stick with your home club. So it becomes like a family. It becomes your place. You know that every weekend you'll be there. You since you're 6 years old, and your friends will never change, and they'll always be there. And one of the interesting things is that when you're young, you play, for instance, Saturday morning, you have your games, your trainings, and after that, the whole senior team comes in and plays the game of the weekend, right? So we every single time we stay longer, and we cheered up our team. So yeah, in that sense, I've always looked up for the players that were playing on my team, home team. um, I would say that was always the source of inspiration in terms of what I wanted to achieve. Um, yeah, mostly that, I would say.
With those seniors in that kind of position, as they were kind of a mentor for you, were you able to take that same kind of concept and be a mentor to other players that were getting involved in rugby?
Well, I always try to be. There's, of course, a lot more work to do. That's something that you never stop doing. I think that's one of my objectives, is to be able to transmit uh, what I could learn, what I could achieve, kind of lifetime experience, I would say, in terms of becoming a professional rugby player and a professional businessman at the same time, which is not always easy, and it's not always what happens. Usually it's one or the other. Well, I believe there's a way to mix both of them up, and that's what I'm trying to show and to do at this time.
What was that dream job that you were wanting as you got older?
Well, I would say the one that I have not right now. I mean, being able to do the two things that I love the most at the same time, that's probably it. Yeah.
So it was always going to be rugby, and no matter what path, you were always wanting to be a professional rugby player.
That was always my dream since I was, I don't know, a young kid. Um, it's curious because have been told by many trainers, coaches, that I would never make it to professional rugby because I was too small, and actually that pushed me forward even more, trying to um, make them know that they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think one of the best motivators is telling you you can't do it. Uh, at least it worked wonders on me. Just, oh, you think I can do it? Well, I'll show you I can. Um, I mean, nothing comes for free, right? You need to pull up your sleeves and put to work. There's no other way. But if you do what it takes, and you keep going, no matter how hard it is, it can be done.
When those people told you that you were too small or you weren't going to make it, did you ever have doubt, like maybe I should go in a different direction? Or was that mindset was, okay, I'm going to show you, I have to prove something to these people?
Well, I would lie you if I never doubted. Uh, of course, you got doubts, but because the important thing is never let those doubts overcome you, right? So it's always good to know that there's something in there that says, hey, are you going to make it? So you can push even further. But never let your doubts be stronger than yourself, because in that case, you will never succeed.
What is, like, in your professional career, the biggest accomplishment to kind of show those people that you have made it?
Well, I would say when I signed my first professional contract in here in France. So when I finally left Argentina in 2015 to come play one of the best leagues of rugby in the world, that would be probably the peak of my career in that sense. But I think there's a lot more than just that. I mean, when you grow up in Argentina and you play for your team and you become a senior player, there's between 4 and 5 teams just for the seniors. And being able to play for the first team and show all the other kids that that can be done, that's also something that you'll never forget.
Was it hard moving to a whole different country, or did you kind of like that experience and that journey that you were about to go on?
I honestly didn't care because my dream was to become a rugby player, a professional rugby player, and I knew that was not possible in Argentina. So my mindset was already decided to leave whenever I had the chance to do what I wanted. And since it was my dream and I had made lots of efforts to become that, it was quite easy, to be honest.
Talk about the experience of playing that first game with that professional team. What was going through your minds and how was that experience for you?
It's pretty good, to be honest. I mean, I've traveled, I think it was on a Friday, and I spent 1 or 2 weeks before the next game happened. And then the coach said, hey, you're starting. I was like, wow, I was shocked. I mean, I've been here for only 15 days, and you decide to put me on the first team right away. And I was like, okay, I need to prove myself, you know? I
Mhm.
mean, these guys made the effort to bring me from Argentina all the way to France. There's no way I will let them down. So I remember that on that game, I think in the first half I did like, I don't know, 7, 8 good tackles, and I was at halftime. Of course, I didn't speak a word of French, and the coach said my name, and I was like, oh shit, I must have done something wrong. And the guy next to me, who was actually translating for me, he was a South African nice guy, a good friend of mine. He said, I was like, what did he say? Oh no, he's just putting you as an example. I said, fuck, really? No way. So he was thrilled because apparently I was the only one tackling back then.
Were you always looking at that next team that you wanted to play for, or were you fine being with the team that you were with for a period of time?
That's a mixture of feelings when you're a professional rugby player. As at the end of your contract, you're always looking to what you're doing next.
Mhm.
Even if you're having an excellent time whatever the team you're playing with. Um, and that's actually one of the reasons why I'm convinced that having this mixture of both rugby and business at the same time is the way to go. Because I believe that expectancy that I had, that not knowing what's happening, it's also due to just having one option. So rugby was everything I was doing at the time. uh, you always ask yourself, what happens if this goes wrong? Well, what will I do next? That's why what we are building here in Sarlat Rugby uh, is this mixture of professional rugby, but also teaching and having people do a job during the rest of the time that can actually become their lifetime experience afterwards, because you never know when something can go wrong, on when you decide to quit or change or whatever happens. And it's always good to have a plan B, right?
Was there ever a moment where you knew that you had to start looking for that next idea or that next step in your career because rugby may not be what's going to happen next?
I think that after playing professionally for 4 years, after that, I started to ask myself what I was going to do afterwards. I've never been a guy that stopped doing stuff while I was playing or not. I mean, I've always kept working, kept studying, even if I was playing. So I think it's also a part of me to not just, uh, okay, this is enough for me. I won't go further. But yeah, after playing 4 years, which was my dream and was my complete focus for that period of time, then I started to dig in what else could I do while keep playing. Because of course I want to keep playing. I mean, it drives me. But I also find that business investments and that part of the job and the work in becoming a businessman um, drives me a lot too. So why not do both at the same time?
What's a big skill that you have taken from rugby that you have brought into the business world?
I would say motivation, grit, ha- being able to fall down and step back up, um, not wanting to lose. I'm a terrible loser. I don't like to lose at anything that I do. I don't take that as a negative thing. I think it pushes you even further. And I mean, even when I was back home and after a game, if I lost, I couldn't. My family couldn't even say hi to me because I was like completely focused on what happened, trying to find solutions to what went wrong, uh, reliving all the game back in my head, every single action. That happens right now, and I think that's the kind of mentalities that you need to have whenever you're into a startup, into a business. You never know what happens. There's always problems, especially when it's just starting, and you need to fix them, right? Uh, we don't like the people that just complain about, hey, I have this problem, this other. No, okay, what do we do? How do we solve them? We're not here to just complain and bring problems into the equation, but we are actually here to solve those problems and try to make our weaknesses into our force.
Were injuries ever an issue with you, or was that all a mental thing where you didn't even think about it during the games?
Oh, during the games, I never thought about that. In fact, I've been injured a lot of games and played anyways. I mean, that's probably who am I, and I don't really. care what happens. I think if you hesitate too much, especially in every contact sports, you will never get it done. If you start realizing what we are doing, and because we are just smashing each other, right, between with the rules of the game, but it's hard to be realistic and say that, oh no, it's safe. I mean, no, I mean, we're just trying to tackle each other, hit each other, and injuries are a part of the game. For me, the important thing about them is how do you overcome them, because there will always be there in a, I mean, smaller or higher degree. Uh, it's a part of the game, and as I said, for me, the importance there is how do you overcome those situations, because it's the same connection I do with a startup. Every startup has problems. Every startup has uh, things that they don't know how to do, or something that broke and that needs fixing. Okay, how do we do it? And for me, that's the important thing.
Talk about those companies that you're involved with today. What made you want to get involved with them, and how has that experience been for you?
Oh, the experience, it has been great. Uh, Keep learning all the time, and keep growing. And also, more importantly, we are growing. We were like around 6 or 7 employees less than a year ago, and now we're over 35 during COVID. So we're growing very fast. We've got lots of expectations of what's coming. Um, we in fact are running the Startup Super Cup, which is an event specially designed to make startups meet the capital they need to thrive and grow. And that we are hosting here in October, here in Sarlat, in France, where we will host 100+ startups with a ratio of 1 to 8 startups to investors. Because what we really saw on previous events is that the ratio is not good enough. The connection between the startups and the investors are not really done. So that's, I mean, we identified the problem and we're trying to solve it, right? That's our spirit. That's the way we work, and that's what we intend with this event happening in a couple months. So we will have also at least 100 media. CNN, BBC are coming. So really, the impact we are trying to get with this event is huge. Uh, Only by attending, if you're smart enough and you manage to get a couple interviews with the CNN, Fox, whoever's here, having a couple podcasts interview you and your business and what you're trying to do, I mean, that pays for itself, right?
With being in the industry that you're in, was it going to be a challenge where you're excited to learn each aspect of what these startups do or what they go through to find those investors? Or did you kind of have prior knowledge of this industry?
Well, I've always been into the startup business myself. Since I was little, I was always trying to do something on my own. Didn't really like that much working for others in
Mhm.
terms of being an employee, because that was who I was, right? And so I had some knowledge. Of course, I'm learning different things, but the problems startups face are, I would say, all the time the same. They have lack of funds, because every startup is usually being built up on the owners or the funders' money, which eventually runs up. And that's one of the things we take care here in Unicorn. And the other big thing is usually as soon as a startup raises money, they spend at least 50% of that money into marketing services, which are not really specific, are not really um, explained on what you are achieving with those marketing campaigns. There are no KPIs, and that's our forte. Our base comes from digital marketing, customer acquisition, and that's where we excel, and that's what we bring into the table every single time we have a startup.
Is there another business that in your future that you're hoping to be involved with, or are you already doing that right now?
Well, we've got businesses in every I don't know, but we've got an esport platform called formagent.gg. um, we have in decentralized finance, we have a new startup coming up, tokens, NFTs, virtual reality, augmented reality. What else? I mean, we've got plenty of things going on at this time, and frankly, uh, I'd say we can manage everything that comes into tech, which is our focus. We don't do anything that's outside of tech. We've got it pretty covered.
Basically all those different type industries you just named, esports, NFTs. I mean, I've been seeing so many articles about NFTs. It's like all things that are paving the way towards the future of tech, basically. And
Yeah.
so it's crazy how what those things are going to look like in 10 years from now and how it's going to evolve and everything. So it's exciting to hear what you're doing with all these startups and how you guys are playing a big role in getting them off the ground in a way.
Yeah, I would say a lot less than 10 years because it's growing very, very big and very quick. What we are seeing is just the beginning, but I think in the next 12 to 18 months, there will be lots of changes, especially in what we call decentralized finance, DeFi, because in fiat money, it's there, but it's having problems. We know how it looks like. Everyone's not trusting the governments anymore. They want something else. The cost of doing that, it's a lot higher than doing it through the blockchain in this case. So there's, yeah, a lot of changes coming up, for the best, of course.
For someone that's listening to this interview and they're part of a startup or they're starting their own company, what kind of advice would you give them to get themselves off the ground?
Well, I would tell them what we always ask for a startup to become incubated or accelerated by us. There's the first question we ask ourselves is, what can we do for you that will bring real traction, that would make an impact for your business? If that question doesn't actually ring, then we will never accept working with you because we know we won't be able to deliver. So that's the first thing. Then there's three key questions that we ask everyone to bring to the table whenever they want to become a part of Uniqorn. So the first thing is, have you got a proof of concept? What does that mean? Is, do you have a product or a service that's already up there, even if it's in a low form and still needs a lot of work, a lot of progress? It's up there. Two, have you got one, two, three, 10 clients that have tried the product or your service and they're actually intrigued by it? They are confident that it can solve a problem. And the third question is, were you able to convince someone to invest in your business? But that might be your grandmother saying, hey, I'm all in for it. Here's $100. It doesn't need to be something big. But if you are not able to convince your family that what you're doing really has potential, how are you going to convince other investors to bring money to your business? So those are the questions that I would say always keep in mind when you are approaching anyone else, and always have an answer to those questions to provide.
I like those three questions because basically that's business 101. It's like you got to answer those questions before you get out there because with this world, there's so much competition. You got to kind of prove how can you stand out in a way.
Yeah, I mean, we get at least 50 offers a day, 50 decks a day, people coming to us, hey, I want to work with you. And to be need to be completely honest, 90% of those just get eliminated because they don't hook. So whenever you approach someone, be sure that you have some hook points in there that will stand out from the others. Don't try to invent the wheel, but yes, try to be creative in how do you pitch someone, how do you pitch yourself uh, to stand out. Because if you're just the same as the others, it's going to be a lot more difficult.
With being with all these startups, have you ever had that niche to start your own company in a way, or you're more like wanting just to help these companies grow?
Well, I've done it in the past already. I had catering, I think it's called in English. So I was doing events for at least 8 years, since I was 18 till I was 26, I think. So for a long period of time, I had my own company, all sorts of events. I've also had boutique shop with design for shoes. So I've done that. It might come back, sure, but and in fact, some of the startups we are talking about have been funded by us. For instance, Sports X, it's one of our startups, one of our own, which is starting to grow very quick. You will probably hear more about us soon, because we've identified that every single sports club have the same problems in terms of branding, in terms of marketing, in terms of creating an identity and growing a community. And those are points that we are very confident that we can solve. For instance, our Sarlat Rugby, which is one of our startups here, even though it's 117 years old, we consider it a startup because it's got every single problem that every startup has. So for us, we spent we were at 2,000 2,500 followers in Facebook less than 6 months ago, and now we are almost at 100K.
Wow.
So yeah, and we are a small Federal 2 team, which is fifth division in France, and we've got a bigger community than most of the clubs in first and second division, Pro D2 and top 14. So we know how to get it done, and that's what we are trying to solve with this Sport X, and um, and also how do you monetize everything afterwards? Because it's good to have a community, but you need to be able to uh, monetize that to grow your business, right? And we believe this it's going to be very big in the next 6 months.
So thinking about the future, what are you hoping to accomplish professionally and personally in the next couple years?
Well, I would really like to transcend and to transmit what I've been doing, try to motivate people and help them grow as long as I keep growing myself too on the process, because I think we should never stop learning and growing. That's something very important because there's always stuff to improve. Um, and I would like to do both things at the same time. Encourage people to become better at what they do, uh, rugby wise, or and I wouldn't say or and business wise. So yeah, I would think that's what I have in mind right now.
Looking back at your journey and experience, for someone that's listening to this interview, what tips or advice would you give them to overcome obstacles, accomplish their goals, and rise to the challenge?
Well, I would say first, never give up. Everything can get done if you do what it takes. And as second thing, which is probably the most important thing, even though it might sound a bit cliche, but follow your dreams. Whatever those are, don't let them go. I mean, it can be done. Of course, they won't come for free. Uh, Maybe you need to wake up 3 hours earlier to do whatever you need to, or stay up longer, or train harder, whatever it takes, right? But follow your dreams, because that's what it that's what it is, right? I mean, if you really want it, go get it.
That's as simple as that is, it's so true because I think a lot of people now they struggle to follow their dreams because they feel that they're not going to accomplish it or there's so many obstacles in their way. But you kind of just have to have that mindset and go for it. And it's going to happen if you put the mental game into it.
Yeah, and I also think there's first the question, am I good enough? Which you already start with a 10-year penalty in that case. Uh, Second thing is you start worrying about the problems that you might find
Yep.
instead of starting encountering those problems, because in 99% of the cases there will be problems. I won't lie to you. I mean, and they are there to make you grow better and not just to make you fall down. And if you fall down, stand back up and carry on. But yeah, just get started, right? That would be it.
Well, Lucas, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your rise to the challenge. We're excited to see what you're going to do with your companies and excited to see what the future looks like for you.
Thanks, Alex. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I'll see you soon.